Hello, hello, hello. Hi, everyone. Welcome back. Welcome back in. Welcome back to Instructions for Humanity. I'm going to give you guys some time to come in here. We have a very important message today. This is like part two of yesterday's message. There was some weird collusion in the energy field yesterday, which I was not able to properly deliver this message as source would like it delivered. So we're gonna do this message again, and I'm gonna try not. There is a very powerful prophecy about Candace Owens, but also too, is Candace also controlled opposition? So I have a lot of things I've been channeling. This is going to be like a psychic investigation style. So simply what that means is, the luck of video you have, guys. Simply what that means is I have a lot of findings, I have a lot of messages coming through about Candace, and we're going to put them all together in a psychic investigation when we dig a little bit deeper. And welcome, welcome, welcome in, everyone. Back to the channel, Instructions for Humanity. It is Tahirah, Mother of the Ages. I am a supernatural quantum healer, guys. Yes. And I say I'm a supernatural quantum healer is because I receive frequencies and light codes to go ahead and deliver messages. Yesterday, there was something alluding to the frequency receptivity, and which normally tells me someone doesn't want me to deliver the message. Okay. And yeah, I specialize in quantum telepathic healing modalities. I am telepathic. I have telepathic abilities with me and all of my clients, and which makes me a supernatural healer. And I work directly within the source codes, within the Christ consciousness. Okay. And yeah, this is what we're going to go ahead and dive into. Is Candace Owens controlled? Is she an op? Is Candace an op? Seriously. We need to know, is Candace Owens an op? And how is Candace tied into the being the biblical mother of Charlie Kirk? This is today's psychic investigation. So, what I first want to tell you guys, there's a few things. I'm going to give you a little bit of backstory about Candace Owens. And then we're going to dive into some automatic writing that I did. Now, if you're new to the channel, automatic writing is a form of receiving messages psychically. And so essentially all you're doing is doodling. You don't know what you're writing or drawing until you look back at it. And then I'm able, with my source codes, I'm able to decode what that means. And I got a very interesting message about Candace Owens. What's going on with her internally? There are two energies living inside of Candace Owens. One has been subdued, one is kind of being blocked out on purpose or maybe not on purpose. And the other one is the like essentially an active live wire that Candace is currently linked into. And what it's doing, it's funneling all of Candace's talking points up to a certain place. Okay. So that's the first thing you have to know. So let me first give you a background about Candace Owens. Now, guys, on this channel, everything's multidimensional. There's things happening on a micro level and on a macro level. It's not about your feelings. It's not about who you like and who you dislike and who you align with. It's all about what does source say? Because at the end of the day, left ain't right and right ain't left. And therefore, is not leading into the middle for transcendence. Okay. So I'm here to awaken us consciously through this message today. So the first thing we want to point out about Candace Owens is, Candace Owens used to be a sleeper cell within the Black community. Free now, right, where a lot of truth is happening. But when we go back to Candace Owens on the Trump train a long time ago, at that point in time, primarily a lot of people, Black people specifically, were not for Trump. And she essentially built her career off of basically demeaning Black people. She did a whole expose about George Floyd, all of, all of the rest. At that time, there was a lot of young Black people dying from police brutality. Well, Candace Owens was one of these people that were on the front lines of that. And, specifically, I do remember her whole expose that she did about George Floyd, and this is why I say she was a sleeper cell within the Black community, because regardless that George Floyd was a crackhead and a criminal, no, we ain't, we're going to keep it real now. But still, his life still mattered. He did not deserve to die. Just like, even though Charlie Kirk spoke some things that a lot of people didn't agree with, it still doesn't mean that he deserved to die. Everyone's life is important because we all fit into the bigger mathematical equation, right? Which is source, right? So we're all here playing a role. And Candace is actually playing a much bigger role than we could ever imagine. And this came through last night. I spent about an hour, almost an hour and a half, and it was a choppy message, but we got to the point at the end. I'm going to show you guys how Charlie and Candace Owens are much bigger pieces to the puzzle than you ever thought, and how we can actually find these two in biblical texts, okay? But I want to go back to Candace Owens. So this is how she got her rise to fame. And it came out in the message yesterday. How did Candace Owens, she aligned herself with a certain talking point. And, within the Black community, we'll say she aligned herself with whiteness. And it came out in the reading yesterday that there was an event that happened to Candace Owens when she was quite young. And during this event, she was picked on, and I believe it was by another Black little girl, about her skin color and about her hair. And she was actually picked on, and I can see this too, in my mind's eye. Specifically, it's that her hair stood up. Okay. So I can see Candace Owens as a child. It has like some pigtails here, maybe like 3 pigtails, but the pigtails, they weren't like flat, they were more like kind of puffy and up. And she was getting picked on by another girl in her class, I do believe. So this came through the message yesterday, because how did Candace Owens align herself with the right? What we're doing is we're looking at the energy behind it. This is the event that happened to her. And from that event, on a subconscious level, Candace Owens has been trying to almost escape the event. And we can do that sometimes when traumatic events happen to us, and they really do shape the way we live our lives. But make no mistake about it, that's the event that happened to Candace. So Candace spent a lot of her time trying to align with everything that whatever little girl said that she was not. And so essentially this would be her aligning more with, with white America. So that's the background on her. And she did this whole expose on George Floyd, not because she was truly, not because she truly, truly just was like, hey, this guy's a criminal and these police are victors, and his, what's that guy's name? Goodness, not Charlie, but George Floyd deserved to die. It was because of the original thing going on within Candace's subconscious templates, that she almost felt that she had to do this to prove that she belonged. Because when that event happened when she was younger, it proved that she didn't belong. So this is just how we get the backstory about how Candace Owens came to be into these spaces, right? Because it's not actually common to see a lot of Black women in these really conservative spaces, and to have such a large voice and a large, output within this space, right? So we have to understand that. So the expose was about her trying to prove that she belonged in the place that back when she was young, that she did not belong to. So what you have to understand, when Candace Owen is speaking and her views are somewhat skewed through that 5, 6, or 7-year-old self, she doesn't know this. but I specialize in past life memories in the one big Akashic soul body. And this is definitely showing up within her Akashic soul as an event that happened to her. And it was very traumatic. No matter if it seems small to us, it was big enough to affect the trajectory of her life. Okay. So I think I said that. And, but she has a here, and it's about to get really, really. Now, I want to show you guys something. Candace Owens has two energies living inside of her. One is being silenced, and the other one is the one that is speaking for her. And so this is part of the that came up yesterday. And I'm going to show you guys, and you guys gotta have to really pay attention to the drawing because there's some faces within it that I do want to show you guys here. Okay. So I want you to pay attention to this photo here. This was from the automatic writing. So what we're going to do is take the first half of the page. I want you to pay attention to something. We're going to see a woman in bondage, much like how Charlie Kirk was in bondage when we did his psychic investigation. So, okay, look at the first upper part of the page. Do you see that face right above? Here's a chin, a nose, forehead, and kind of a head with a little kind of scoop in the back. This is a person that I'm channeling, which represents Candace Owens. This person dates back to, probably the 1800s or even before then. But it represents a lineage. But if you also see, there's a huge X over the face. Do you see that? Huge X. This part of Candace Owens is not in her full sovereignty. Do you see that? She's not operating within her full sovereignty. And there's also a lot of other interesting things happening in this photo. There's some energy that I get of the transatlantic slave trade. So Candace Owens is carrying heavy templates for the transatlantic slave trade. So when I say controlled opposition, you're about to find out why I say that. Sometimes it's not nefarious. Sometimes it's our unhealed trauma that actually leads to us doing certain things. But nevertheless, Candace Owens and Charlie Kirk are actually found in the Bible. And so they have an actual bigger role to play. And we're going to get there in a moment. So now we see her here. Now, if you look up here, psychically, when I'm translating this, this reminds me of the transatlantic slave trade. There's some energy here of it, and there's some more energies up here. This is all attached to her and what she's holding subconsciously, traumas, right? There's also some energies here. There's a massive blockages here. Now, this is on my right side and your left, right? And there are some religious templates and a lot of religious blockages and energy going on here. And on this side, this is my left side. So that's always my sign for some sort of entity, some sort of bigger energy that is involved. So I want to point that out to you guys, and I hope that you can see that. And so, it's very interesting when you're reading these things because you have to be open to spirit to know how to decipher it. And then spirit told me, now I need you to turn the page upside down. So then when I turn the page upside down, it shows me another story. It shows me a secondary face. And so now I want to show that to you guys. So now looking at this part of the sheet, now we have a second face. We have a nose here. We have a mouth, and we have some sort of beard. And then here would be like a forehead. And then there's a lot going on within the brain. A lot of thoughts, possibly part of this enslaved version, inverted Candace, being filtered up, and her codes fusing in with whoever this guy is. Now, I'm understanding that this is either a white representing just a white guy or some sort of corporation that Candace has received funding for or she has worked for in the past. But what I'm saying is she is not standing in a position of power to utilize this version of herself, but rather she's inverted, turned upside down, and all of who she is and what she is being funneled through either a corporation or, or some white man or someone she took funding from, right? And we can see that here with this energy coming up. And where is it going? It's going here. It's going back to this triangle, which is my sign for like Mason, you know, which is another sign for the elite. So the very thing that a lot of the things that Candace Owens is speaking about, what's happening to her message and to literally the foundation of who she is, all of that is being funneled really truly back up to the same people that she says that she's fighting. Now, does Candace Owens know this? Probably not. But this is what comes up in my psychic investigation, right? And so I hope that you guys can see that. And now it's about to get deep. Okay. So what we first must know is
Part of Candace Owens.
that has been wounded since childhood. And she doesn't have full autonomy over, not that she doesn't have full autonomy over herself, it's that what she knows and what she believes in, what she stands on, has been altered because of that event that happened to her, or made her feel super subconscious about who she was, particularly as it seemed to her involved, right? And I think Candace is a beautiful woman, and I do agree with most things that Candace does say, but I'm here to give you, what source has to say. And so just with this, there is a part of her that
Being controlled. There is
her that is, controlled opposition. Okay. So I think that I have made that clear. Now it gets interesting because yesterday I wanted to actually say something and I had a slip. I wanted to talk about, well, where's Candace's husband in all of this? How does he feel about all of this? And I almost said her wife. Where's her wife? Right. Now, obviously, Candace doesn't have a wife. Right. And then later on, I had another slip and I said Rebecca. Right. So then I put, sources had me put two and two together. Rebecca, remember, was the wife of someone in the Bible. So now this leads us into who she is biblically, right? And why it makes a lot more sense of how Candace Owens is going so hard for Charlie Kirk. She's going so hard for Charlie Kirk that it appears that she's going harder for Charlie Kirk and to find out what happened to him than his own wife, because she has really asserted herself almost in front, almost as a what, another energetic shield, right? And so we're going to find out why that is, because there is a reason and a purpose for everything. But before we go into the biblical essence and who she is biblically as Rebecca, and we're going to get to that bloodline and bring in Charlie Kirk. But I was also channeling a movie, Jupiter Ascending. Now it's very interesting in Jupiter Ascending. Here's the synopsis. It says Jupiter Jones, right, was born under signs that predicted future greatness. This would be Candace Owens. But her reality as a woman consists of cleaning other people's houses. What did people do back in these days? This is given, slavery or post-slavery, but it's definitely given some sort of, servant of some sort. Black people cleaned a lot of houses back then, right? So this, make no mistake about it, multidimensionally is Candace Owens, right?
Jupiter Jones, right, would be Candace Owens.
Situation. She was born under signs that she was destined for greatness, right? But her reality consists of her cleaning other people's houses and endless bad breaks, right? And then Cain, a genetically engineered hunter, arrives on Earth to locate her, making Jupiter finally aware of the great destiny that awaits her. Jupiter's, should be Candace, genetic signature marks her as the next in line for extraordinary inheritance that could alter the balance of the cosmos. So make no mistake about it, this was coming through so clear. This is Candace Owens' energy. It is Owens' destiny.
Genetic signature.
Codes is what I call it, source codes. She has source codes inside of her that makes her next in line for extraordinary inheritance. That would all be about the cosmos. So this is again, so is spiritually. So the first thing when I spoke about control opposition is literally her energy is being funneled up to some organization, which is masonry right here. So the very people that Candace fights against, because of the inversion that happened in her energy field with that small event that happened and some of the business decisions along the way, somehow, some way, Candace's energy, true self, because she's powerful, genetic, you got to understand, she holds genetic codes. She holds a genetic signature, right? Which is extraordinary, right? Is what this thing says. And so these elites know who you are. Don't think elites don't know who you are. I don't care if you're only on social media, they know who you are. They read our soul signature. So when I talk about controlled opposition, you have to understand is that anyone that is great, anyone that could be a great voice of the people, like them or hate them, they have to control. They controlled a lot of leaders in the past. In fact, most leaders, especially presidents, have been controlled. So when we zone out, even presidents are controlled opposition because any energy that has a massive voice and a massive following and a massive energy signature or calling on their life. And I think even Andrew Tate says this, they will bring someone in to essentially be the what do they call in Hollywood when you have that person over you kind of controlling you, telling kind of controlling you in the background, that they will always bring that in. Someone as smart as Candace Owens, you can't just bring that in and she's going to agree with it. No, it's done energetically. It's done on the sly where it's done so good you don't even know that it has happened. And that is truly what is showing up within her energy field, right? And so
Now we know it's controlled opposition, just like most
powerful people. And even a lot of these Black leaders, like, for instance, MLK, Martin Luther King, was also controlled opposition because they have to get in there when you lead the people and the people are behind you, they have to be able to control you. Because at that time, there were other Black leaders talking more harshly. But Martin Luther King came in with a message of equality for everyone, right? But this message was being controlled. Say he didn't truly believe it, and not to say that he doesn't truly believe this. Yes, but the message was heavily funded and heavily pushed out because he was being used to control opposition, to control their fear, so that the opposing party can now do what they seem to do. This is how they use every single person in the past, right? So that is what we have to know. So part of it is control opposition, but the other part is why is she being? We know what happened that inflicted when she was a child. We know who the energy zoned up to the same people that she's fighting against. The Masonic order, the ones seeking to have control, this new world, that they always have been speaking of. It's the same playbook, and the right and left are still part of the problem because source is about transcendence. There isn't any way to be a leftist or any way to be right from the right to be for source, because source is about the evolving up, evolution up. So you have to bring both together and they transcend, right? So that's just what you have to know. Now, it's very interesting. So we know that Candace Owens has special DNA essentially. She has a genetic signature, which is why they want to siphon and redirect the energy and redirect how powerful she is and want to use that energy for a certain narrative, right? Controlled opposition, right? Now, going back to that slip that I had, when it took me almost an hour and a half for that video, it was a lot of introductory services, but a few things came out which really, really is part of the core message. Now we're going to talk about Candace Owens, who she truly is in a biblical sense, but came out in the ring yesterday. But Candace Owens is in the energy of Rebecca, Rebecca from the Bible. And Charlie Kirk is in the energy of Esau, which if you followed me a few videos ago, I spoke about that already. So Rebecca in the Bible, this first brings us to Genesis. This is how she was first introduced, right? So begins with her being divinely chosen as Isaac's wife. Found at a well when Abraham's servant sought a bride for Isaac. After marriage to Isaac and years of barrenness, she couldn't give birth. Then she gave birth to twins, Esau and Jacob. Now, during Rebecca's pregnancy, now the Rebecca, this source is saying that this is who Candace Owens is. That's why I was channeling Jupiter ascending, because these are the special codes that they're trying to point me to. She's carrying these codes of Rebecca, right? So Candace Owens, spiritually, is the mother of Esau, which we can look at as, we can look at that as the white race, and Jacob, we can look at that as the black race. And these two are fighting in the womb. But Rebecca is the mother. This would be Candace Owens. And Charlie Kirk is Esau. He has heavy codes to the Esau bloodline, okay? So during her pregnancy, she felt the twins struggling, and God revealed to her that they would become ancestors of two nations, with the older brother serving the younger. So, favoring Jacob, Rebecca later helped him deceive Isaac, his father, to secure the patriarchal blessings
and cause significant
family conflict, though it ultimately fulfilled God's prophecy for Jacob to become the ancestor of Israel. So this is why we know that the false, so to speak, Jews, they're not Jews by blood, they are converts from Germany. We've been talking about this probably a few years ago. We all know that. So this is who Candace Owens is. So in a way, when Candace Owens is going to Kirk,
he holds very
a lot of templates into that bloodline, right? And so what I say is you hold codes. There are people who hold codes for some of these, people throughout history, or certain groups of people. There are literal people who hold a lot of codes, right? And so Charlie Kirk was one of those who held a lot of the Esau codes. Now, because Candace Owens or Rebecca colluded to have Jacob steal some of those birthrights, what do you think that she's going to do in this lifetime? Because what we have to do is experience both. So if she helped Jacob steal the birthrights of Esau, what do you think might happen as a soul? You come back in, you're like, oh, I shouldn't have did that. And then what will you do? You probably try to do the opposite, right? So you might want to help Esau either get his birthrights back or reverse and steal, rather the latter, steal birthrights from Jacob. Even though it appears to be tit for tat, it's the only way to reach transcendence. Both sides of the coin have to be expressed. And then when you see that both sides of the coin actually lead back to each other, because everything is you pushed out, everything is oneness, then this is how you get transcendence. So essentially, with Candace Owens being in the Rebecca energy and how she helped Jacob the last time, so we could consider Jacob more as the black race, right? And consider Esau more of the white race. So even though she had that early infliction that happened to her that kind of made her subconscious about her skin tone, right? This all came up in the reading. It's not me. This is what the reading says. But that was still supposed to happen. That infliction was supposed to happen to lead her for what her soul wanted to do, was to redo what she did in this timeline. That timeline as Rebecca, she helped Jacob collude to steal some birthrights. Now, in this lifetime, and I said that she was controlled opposition and how she went on a whole expose, against Black people when Black people were getting, murdered by police. She really headed that to kind of push the narrative that, the victims were to blame. But that's because in this lifetime, now she needs to or wants to experience the polarity of helping Esau now steal the birthrights. Do you see what I'm saying? And this is how, when we zone out, what we are looking at and what I've been tapping on for several months, if not years, is the Jacob and Esau template. When we zone out, I said we were always going to come to this point. There is a part of humanity that has never healed past the race.
So now we can see
there. We see there's a lot of hate, and we still see, unfortunately, there's a lot of pain and a lot of hate between the Black and white races of the world. And so Trump provides the energy, because Trump holds heavy codes that provides the energy for us to open up the race template and take a look. So now that we're in this race template and we're taking a look, all of this is in there. It led us to the Charlie Kirk. And now it leads us to Candace Owens. And they both lead us to part of the religious template that is also part of these laws. You're going to see how when we start to open up all these templates, one thing opens the next, opens the next. On one level, it appears on face value to be about race. But when we zone out multidimensionally on another level, it literally is bringing us back to an original sin or infliction that happened within the one Akashic soul body. This is a template from Genesis, from the beginning. Now, whether you believe that all of these things are literal in the Bible or not, that doesn't matter, because it gives us a key code to the energy that is being stored within the templates that are being stored within the collective Akashic soul body. So what this means is every single person in humanity will fall into one of these, either the Esau or the Jacob. And so you hold codes into that. And essentially, as I've said before, Jacob and Esau are still fighting in the womb. And Candace almost being the spiritual mother over these two twins in one timeline. She helped one husband, Jacob, do the birthright. And now this one, she's aligned herself with what? Esau to help balance out what she did. That I'm telling you guys, you think we're playing small roles here. We are not. I'm not playing small roles. Some that she's playing.
Has already done is experienced
Esau. So now she's just being both. It'll be interesting to see where Candace settles. Will she settle in the transcendence? Not being too much great, not being too much love, somewhere in the middle, which she may be heading there, but it may just take time. Because Candace Owens is coming much like Charlie into the realization that the whole Israel thing is a scam. And how much of a scam is it? It literally has shaped every single thing that had happened here on the earth thing. And it has kept humanity out from operating within their full autonomy and sovereignty. There isn't any sovereignty that Israelites to point on. There isn't any sovereignty. There isn't any like true wealth and true peace and true living within your own essence as a solar being, full autonomy over yourself to think and utilize your, all your capacities. We can't do that with the Israel lie. Is that you see, you can't even speak out against the lie or even question why we bring them all this money. And the reason why she's questioning, why she always come to this, is because she knows the code of, it's because she knows who it says here, Jacob, the ancestor Israel. It always said, she always knew this intuitively. So now this code provides her with the subconscious faculty to now to question the Israel lie. And Charlie was questioning the Israel lie because he knows, because he knew that no, Satan, because in fact, during this time period of Genesis, actually more than all these blueprints of Israel. So that's the backstory that's happening within his subconscious or Akashic soul body. So you see how multi-layered this is. What they're having is a remembrance of this timeline. It's playing out in real time for us, but they are having their, so to speak, come to Jesus moment. These are codes, and these codes is what source now allows me to do my work. Having these codes is so important to the work that I do. As Mother of the Ages, what I help humanity to do is we look through all of the templates that have happened over the past age, which is 2,150 years. And then I help us shift through that and heal it. Part of the healing that is glaring within the Akashic soul body is saying that Jacob and Esau has to now come into wholeness. That's why they're still, when I look in the spirit, they're still fighting in the womb. If we're separated on right and left, guys, we will still be fighting in the womb. We can't get to new earth vibration if Jacob and Esau are divided. And this ain't coming from me. All of this comes from the great universal spirit, source divine, the one most people call God, the most high. This is what I am knowing. So now the question becomes, it's not a question if Candace will bring these two back together, because that is a question for Candace's soul to experience both and then find the transcendence, right? which does help us. But we are also sovereign, and we are also souls here experiencing the pain. To be honest, if you're honest with yourself, have you experienced any goodness from being divided from your brother? Have you experienced any goodness with the way with racism and prejudice, no matter what side that the prejudice is coming from? Have you experienced, has there been any goodness, any greatness that's come out of that? Greatness that is rooted in source and in divine love. In my opinion, there just has not been. So until the true Israelites, Jacob and the Edomites, Esau, until they stop fighting in the womb, we're stuck. And so the question I pose now to you all as the viewers, to humanity, that I pose is, are we ready to put our differences aside? Or whether are we ready to understand our brother? Not through our traumas. Because what we've been doing is we have been understanding the Esau's and Jacob's of the world from a point of our traumas. If you're trying to find understanding and transcendence from this black, it will never happen. It won't happen. I'll tell you something. This is now a great time to mention this. Give me a lesson about, so to speak, black race and so to speak, white race. And I'm really in the spirit right now. I can feel so scary here. See this thing we call black race, which appears in our eyes, appears to be an oppressed group of people. Some people might say no, but if you look at history, if you look back at history, what appears to be oppressed people from our standpoint. And if we look at, so to speak, as black people, we look at, so to speak, white people, us we appear to be people that are of, are people that, are more in control. People that have colonized, who take certain things and resources. Let me tell you what source. So this is how we're viewing. Listen, this is a source set, and source, just ain't ever, never, never, ever lied. Okay. So this is what source has to say. Okay. Okay. Audio is choppy. Let me test it. Is the audio still choppy? Hard to hear. They don't want me to talk. This is the second time. Guys, is the audio choppy? Oh my God. I'm checking all of this, and I'm on my end, it's okay. Please let me know if the audio is choppy. I don't know, guys. I just have to get this out. And if I have to do it again, I have to do it again. Here's the thing. This is what Source has to say about the black and white race. And we have to view this. We have to view this. Listen. There was a time, what we used to call the Dark Ages, right? These Dark Ages, they call it the Dark Ages is because it's when black people were in the rulership position. Because at a point there was only black people on the earth, right? And this is many, many moons ago. What Source said is there are certain ways that you have inside of you that are not of me. I have caused plagues. I've caused wars. I've caused famine. I've taken away your loved ones, and yet you still defy me. When you defy me in this way, you reject my love. Source has been in a battle to get, we can call it the Jacob bloodline or the Black bloodline, to listen. And so what Source says, okay, you don't want to listen. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to give you a taste of your own medicine. This is now we can look at this as genetic sighting. I'm not, this is Source coming through. Interesting when they talk about taking the rib to be. Now what we're doing, this is nothing more than the genetic, slicing of DNA. What Source said I'm going to do. Said you didn't want to listen. I crumbled empires, and yet you refuse to listen. So this is what I'm going to do for you. I'm going to wait until you go into a deep sleep. And I'm going to take that part of you that I told you you need to change. I'm going to take that out. And I'm going to create a group of people under the race to be a thorn in your side. This is what Source told me. So essentially, I'm going to take the part of you that I told you to take that, and I'm going to expand it. No, this
went and colonized the whole world.
Source said, this is why. There's always a backstory. There's always a backstory. Just like I had to go back to that small little incident that happened to Candace Owens to put her on the path. Without that, she wouldn't be on this path. And without the original inflictions of the black race of Israel, it even talks about all of the curses that God will give Israel in the Bible, because Israel, yes, we're a chosen group of people, but Israel was hard-headed and Israel did not listen. And this pertains to the Jacob bloodline, right? And it's playing out here today. And so what Source said, this same thing I told you to change, I'm going to take that out and I'm going to allow it to roll over you until you come back home to me, Israel. And so but what we've been doing is we spent a whole time fighting our mirror. Have you ever stood in front of the mirror? Go and stand in front of the mirror and try to fight what you see. Let me know how far you get. Stand in front of the mirror, please. Someone, please go into the bathroom, stand in front of the mirror, and I want you to fight that and tell me how far you get. Source is here. Oh my God, I'm just I'm so happy to be the vessel that Source can bring these messages through, because I want us to heal this. Black man, black woman, white man, white woman is your mirror. What you're looking at when you're saying you're so oppressed is the part of you that you refuse to change and heal from. We have different ways as Black people, and white people have different ways. And these ways are created by Source for a purpose. We have ways within ourselves which other groups of people would say it's bad, but to us it's good. Here's the thing. No one wins when you fight yourself. You can't fight the man in the mirror. You have to look at the man in the mirror, stripped down, naked, nothing on, and come to a level and a state of accepting it. And then once you accept it, when you look at it, you need to forgive it. Because in truth, we are our own worst critics. You need to forgive it for everything you said against it. And then we can find the acceptance and the love. This is not a war between two. We're looking into a template of Rebecca being Candace Owens, Jacob and Esau. Charlie Kirk hold massive codes into the Esau bloodline. This is why some might feel that Candace Owens was a sleeper cell in the Black community and that she aligned with whiteness. She aligned with it because as Rebecca, she colluded and made some sort of weird thing happen for Jacob to go in and steal things that was for Esau. And now in this lifetime, she's trying to unright that wrong, but she's trying to do it by reversing it. Right. And so now we understand why Candace does the thing that she does, because she is one of the mothers of civilization. This is who Candace Owens is currently, yet.
She's being used as
Showed opposition on some. Most leaders are. Most are. Let me know if the sound is okay. I keep getting, they don't want me to talk. They don't want me to talk because here's the thing, guys. Once we come together with the man in the mirror, once we bare our soul, strip down and say, I'm sorry for treating you, because when you look at the man in the mirror, we're looking, Jacob and Esau are one. That's what you have to know. No matter how some people might even be repulsed at that thought. I'm telling you what source says. What you're getting, Jacob bloodline, is the things that you didn't like about yourself. The things that God told you to change, but you didn't do it. And so now God's like, okay, all right, that's fine. I got something for you. I'm going to put you in a deep sleep. And what is going to appear when this new group of people come online and they start to rise above you, the more that you don't actually turn around and come back to me is the higher they will continue to rise. And the reason why Source has to do this is so that Jacob can look in the mirror and see himself. So this is the backstory. When we zone out, the backstory on why we have racism is taking us back to the template from the birthrights. And Rebecca was part of facilitating this. This is the Candace Owens energy. It's the codes that she possesses. And so now, guys, the reason why they don't want me to talk is because when we come back into oneness, what happens? Oh, Lord. What did I say before? When we put this thing back in divine order, we become gods yet again. When we put this back in divine order, when we fix the original infliction, when we fix the original thing that we did, there isn't anything you can ever get away with. If Jacob stole some birthrights and Rebecca helped, look what's happening now. It's the opposite. There isn't anything you're ever going to be able to get and run from. You cannot run from yourself. It's an impossibility to do that. And even with Trump being here, what did I say? Trump will help us get into the race template. Charlie has put a fracture into the thread of the reality, brought us back into the Jacob and Esau template. because the two brothers have to now stop fighting to now come back into oneness. And this is how we're birthed into the new earth vibration. There won't be any new earth still being divided as black and white. We can't. You have to know that. So anyone preaching that we're going to get there being separate, they're lying to you. They're completely lying. That will never happen. Never. That's part of the illusion. We're all one, and we're all Jacob and Esau. Every single one of us, regardless of what avatar you show up now. I've had lifetimes as, Polynesian. I've had lifetimes being, white. I've had lifetimes being black, of course. I've had lifetimes being male. I've had lifetimes being female. We're going to switch roles. But it's about not what this avatar looks like, but about the source codes that you possess within. And our source codes right now, as a collective soul body, is saying we need to look in the mirror and forgive each other. Because just because one may feel oppressed now, you did the oppressing in a whole nother time period. And what truly happened, the original infliction was not with brother and brother. The original infliction was with God. You can't steal. When God gives you something, it gives you what it wants you to have. You can't go and get something because you want it. God has to give it to you. And since that happened within the Esau and Jacob template, God will never let you live that down. Never. And that is what Source told me about race. And if we don't want, and I'm speaking to Black people as a Black woman, if we don't want this feeling of being oppressed or this feeling of not being able to rise to our fullest potential, obviously we can, but we feel that it's a lot harder. We don't want that. We got to fix the infliction that we did against God. Because the original infliction was between us and God. And when we fix that, then everything else actually comes back. When we fix that, then the two brothers come back together. And right now we may seem worlds apart, but there's just one thread that needs to be removed for us to merge yet again. And I know they can be done because when all this Charlie stuff happened, when I tell you, I was literally feeling the thread of our reality being taken away weeks before this happened. I was feeling really down, like literally reality is gone. And then when that happened with Charlie Kirk, I understood the energy I was picking up on. He did that. And so we can do this too. And Candace holds very pristine key codes, source codes into this. Candace Owens has, okay, Source wants to say this to Candace. And I want you, and let me just say this to people. Black people, I don't want you to think that I'm coming down on us. I just want to tell you what Source said, and it's because I have to look at myself in the mirror first before I can pick the speckle out of someone else's eye. And that's what I think a lot of people didn't like what Charlie was doing. He was so focused on the Black community when the house of Esau was burning, two elite classes fighting, right? So what I'm saying is I'm taking that same advice that I would give to him. I want to look at myself in the mirror And what I'm saying, me as a Black woman to other Black people, if you don't like it, if you don't like the conditions, then we got to fix the original infliction, which had nothing to do with people. We disobeyed God. We disobeyed the codes. Now, I will pick the speckle out of my own eye first. Now, what Source wants to say for Candace. Since Candace technically is the reason why humanity is in this, because Jacob was a child. Jacob wasn't even born. Or, of course, he was born after that. But what I'm saying is Jacob was a child listening to its mother to do this collusion. Candace Owens has a responsibility to put this back in divine order. So on one end, when we see her aligning herself with what we call whiteness or Esau, this is one of the ways that Candace could be trying to correct this. But Candace Owens, it will only be correct is if you let go and let God, is what Source is saying. Sometimes we have very special roles to play, but then sometimes there is a point in time where God just needs to do its work. It doesn't need you to do it. Like there's certain things I can't come on here and say because God doesn't want me to. There's work also too for God or for Source to do. And we have to differentiate that. And I think what Candace is doing, what she's tinkering in between right now, some of it is some of her work, but you know what, Candace, what Source is saying? Some of this can only be done by my hands. So I understand how this Go Hard for Charlie campaign, which, to be honest with you, the Candace Owen archetype, the Go Hard for Charlie campaign, is truly for herself because Rebecca truly did that for herself. She didn't do it for Jacob or for Esau. This was for Rebecca, what Rebecca wanted to do for herself. So it's still the same thing. A lot of this stuff that she's doing to, we got to find Charlie's killer and all of this, she's doing a lot of this stuff for herself as well because she knows that she can place herself in the position to be the next Charlie Kirk. And not that she's not already big, if not bigger, but energetically, Candace has that same Rebecca. Is that same stuff. They want more, more, and more. And I think a lot of, in general, we do this as a Black race. We want more, more, and more. Especially we want all the gold, all of the rubies, all of the more, 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 and more. Bigger is better, right? So this is what I'm saying. So when I see a person, a soul archetype, I'll use it as an archetypal figure, like Candace Owens. I used to work with people like this. They want all that they can get. They're driven on how far can I go? And not to say that drive is not a good thing, but sometimes they have tunnel vision where if they would zone out, they can see what is good for all and not just what is good for me, me and mine. And so if Source is saying to Candace Owens to pay attention to that, zone out to see what is good and just for all, because she's on a narrow path and she's going to slip up and do something, because Source is saying some jobs are for me. To Candace, some things are for me to do, and some things are for us to do. You have to be able to tell the difference, right? You have to be able to tell the difference. So this half part of this message, I wasn't able to deliver it when I received it last week because it wasn't time. Energetically, it wasn't time for humanity to hear the message. And, they still didn't want humanity to hear this bit of it. But I needed more key codes. I needed to come to find out who who Candace was as Rebecca, and I needed time to find out who Charlie was as representing Esau. And so these are the massive roles that we play. There are no small roles here. There's no small roles. So when I say mother of the ages, I can say it with full confidence that I can hold this energy. And there's been some of you guys that have come in for your past life regressions, and you guys, I'm talking literally, have been part of source, has been angelic armies, has been, I'm talking very powerful people. I mean, even Noah came through on a session for healing. That was big. It goes to show you that these codes stay with you. You can't outsmart God or source. It won't happen. It will catch up with you. And all of what we are experiencing as humanity, we never had to experience this. All we had to do was to listen. There was a time where the code was pure. I do believe that. And I speak a lot about the matrix and a lot about false gods because I work with entities and I understand how people can be controlled by these things. But there was a time when the energy was pure. And part of the energy becoming unpure was our own doing. And then we look externally and we say, there's this external thing hurting me. But when we first hurt ourselves, because we turned away from the guidance of our parents. You know what it says in the Bible? You're supposed to revere your parents. This is how you get curses on you when you don't do that. And that was an original sin of ours. It was an original, I don't like to say sin, infliction. It was an infliction because we thought we knew better than God, than source. And so then we start living in a polluted reality. And it's been polluted ever since they're polluted. When all we had to do was go back to the mirror. And so to wrap it up, Esau is a reflection of Jacob, and Jacob is a reflection of Esau. And Candace Owens is the mother of both of these children. And all we have to do is get rid of right or left, black and white, and all in between, and just say we can share. Why can't we share the birthrights? Because really, that's all we've been fighting for. Both sides have been fighting for control this whole time. If one has control, the other one will put people in place to hold energies down to keep the control. And then one side, is like, nope, we're going to have the control and we're going to make war until we get control. But that's all we've been fighting for are these original birthrights. This is what Source is saying in this moment. All of the stress that we've been going through as humanity has been because we've never healed this template. All we had to do was look in the mirror. That's it. And I don't want to keep kicking a dead horse because this was the message. This was the message. And what I hope that we will take from this, I want everyone to go and look in the mirror. And I did this the first time before I had my spiritual awakening. When we hang up here, this is very important, guys, because you're going to see something. I want you to see your true reflection. You know what? I'm going to give you guys time. I'm going to give you guys time to go do it. So you guys can step away right now, but I'm going to give you directions. I want you to go and I want you to take a look in the mirror. I want you to stare at your eyes. Don't turn away and start looking at your head, your, arms, your stomach. Only focus in on your eyes. And I want you to come back and tell me what you see. There's going to come a point where you're going to get connected to something and you're going to want to pull away and look somewhere else, I want you to continue looking past that point. I'm going to go ahead and do that. And I'm going to wait for you guys to come back and tell me what it is that you see. And while you're doing that, I'm just going to hold some light language healing for this Jacob and Esau template. And be sure to leave the comments when you come back so I'll know when we can deliberate. Mirandere shumbanirita. Himbona kraninande shande and rambanirita. Kinaneshin rambaniri shinirita. Dandereta kananinande and rambaniri shinarambona kanandeta. Bambrutu shuneta haneta. Himurona granita. Minderandi. Nambona karata. Himona shandena. Mimbona shundanita. Mandirande. Himurona karanirandire shunan. Namburonam. Namburonam. Boamba neta neshun. Bandireta. Minara. Nindana. Bimbandireta. Ishumbarata. I'm reading something else here. This makes so much sense. Story of Jacob and Esau. Jacob and Esau, two brothers. Jacob, the younger twin. This is we considered the black race. Acquired his older brother Esau's birthrights, and then decided to blind their elderly father, Isaac. This is where the infliction happened. To receive the firstborn's blessings. This deception, orchestrated by their mother, Rebecca, which is Candace Owens, she's holding those codes, caused Esau, which Charlie Kirk holds a lot of Esau codes, to hate Jacob. You know how some black people say they think white people hate them. This is where it comes from. It comes from this template that's open right now. Because you're thinking, how could people do that, during slavery and all of the harsh things that happened? Because Jacob, the younger twin, acquired the birthright of Esau, then deceived Isaac, his father, to receive Esau's blessing. There was a deception that happened. So what did I say before? In the code of Esau, that is what's playing on in the background. The deception. And Rebecca, being Candace Owens' energy, she had her hands in all of this puppeteering, these birthrights, switching things around, changing timelines. It said, so Esau, it caused Esau to hate Jacob. So you don't even need to ask yourself or why you feel that you know that white people don't like you. It's right here. It's in the Bible. It explains it right here. Why you feel that way. Why some feel that way, not all. Who fled? So this caused Jacob to flee and later return to reconcile with his brother. Jacob went on to father the nation of Israel. And this is why the nation of Israel has been fragmented to this day. This is why we know that those are not Israelites, because they have not been fragmented. They're actually part of the Esau bloodline. They are converts, Ashkenazi Jews that have come from Germany, and the Rothschilds, before Israel was a state of Israel, went to the land of Israel to buy up lands and later used it to collude the lie. So to fix one lie from the Genesis timeline, they now use another lie. That ain't gonna work either. As you see, you can't get away from doing the right thing. It will always, always catch up to you in the end. And so essentially, the Rothschilds literally bought the land of what we call Israel today. And then the Ashkenazi Jews, the converts from Germany, now became Jews on paper in religion, but not of origin, not of DNA. And that is why that infliction happened, because Esau remembers. And why things happen with the Jacob bloodline is because you remember. Why did this happen to Candace Owens? Because she remembers. Because this is going on a super soul conscious level. I would say subconscious, but it's a soul conscious level. So at the end of the day, we can't get away from it. We got to heal this. Shit in, shit out. If you don't put love in there, these templates we're in now, if we don't put in love this time, then what do I say? Ain't no love to get out. If you don't put in truth, ain't no truth to get out. If you don't put in harmony, peace, ain't no peace and harmony to get out. And the gag about the gag about Jacob and Esau is that essentially they come from one seed. The reason why they're fighting, Source ain't just never lied. The reason why they're fighting is because they're fragmented. Source, close. There ain't no twins. There's only one. There's only one consciousness. The reason why they're appearing to be twins is because they're fragmented. Because remember what God said, okay, Israel, okay, Jacob, you don't want to listen. You want to do all of these things. I told you, son, that's not going to be good for you. And so what does a father do? Tough love. Okay, you're going to go into a deep sleep. That part of you I told you to change, I'm going to take that. And now I'm going to make another group of people. They're going to rule over you. And the more you don't forgive and fix the original infliction, the more they will rule over you. But essentially, Jacob and Esau are one. They're never separate. The separate is part of the lie that everything is separate. There isn't anything but oneness and wholeness. So Esau came out of Jacob. You see what I'm saying? So I understand I'm assigning a skin color so that you can all understand, but it's only still the same energy. There's only still oneness when you go back to it. So we're living our reality as this humanity has been living within a fragmentation. And so us as light workers, when we talk about expansion and healing, there's no way, absolutely no way to heal until Esau and Jacob become one yet again. And how they become one is by returning back to the source and saying to the great universal spirit, the one we call Father God, I'm sorry, right? That's it. That's all you had to do. But the stubbornness caused the fragmentation. And we've been living out a false reality ever since that we're separate. But what one person, what one group of people is doing to you is what you're doing to yourself, and what you did to yourself. And what the other group of people is doing to you is causing you is what you've caused for yourself, because there's only oneness. Okay. So anybody look in the mirror? Anybody look in the mirror? Wow, I saw tears and a longing for peace and oneness. Gail, awesome. Carolyn, I see Hazel and through of oh, of dark blue pupil. Thief, I see a big third eye in the middle. Three eyes. Wow. 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 I'm sorry for the sound, but they didn't want us to get here. And to be honest with you, that's probably why the energies were colluding, because we had to always get to Owens as Rebecca, because now the story of the template before us, we just spoke about Esau and Jacob, but we always needed this piece to the puzzle. So as sad as things are that has happened, right, with the passing of Charlie and now Candace Owens kind of stepping into that sort of spotlight, it always had to happen so that we could get here. So essentially, sometimes bad things do happen that will bring us to a larger collective healing, because we were always to see inside of the template, and we were always to come back into wholeness. And so I just want to leave you guys with that. Spend time with self. And it's not even about telling anyone else what they did, but it's about telling yourself what you did against yourself. That is the secret to the fragmentation. You are worthy to be loved. You're worthy to be whole. And all of your, so to speak, insecurities and all of your essence, you're worthy of forgiveness. And sometimes we don't think we're worthy of it, but we're both and all worthy of that. And all you have to do is forgive yourself. Wholeness by transcending the duality focal point. Okay. So hopefully this will translate well on video, but we're going to keep building off of this template, because we can't get to New Earth until the fragmentation is fixed. There isn't anything separate. Trees aren't separate. Humans aren't separate. Animals aren't separate. Everything, and Lauren Hill said this, everything is everything, right? I'm going to leave it here, guys. I love you so much. I love you. I love you. I love you. And so it is, as we walk together in divine wholeness and love.